Hello and welcome everyone to the CCJS's fall program, the Sisters of Our Lady of Zion and Nostra Aetate, an old story and its new horizons. My name is Matthew Tapey, and I am the director of the Center for Catholic Jewish Studies at St. Leo University, the oldest Catholic institution of higher education in Florida, and one of the largest Catholic universities in the country. The CCJS is an academic center devoted to building understanding and respect between Catholics and Jews and all people of goodwill. We do this by educating students and members of the community in programs like this one. We also make contributions to the academic conversation on Jewish-Christian relations at the national and international level. Our mission is based in the Second Vatican Council's 1965 declaration, Nostra Aetate. And while many of today's attendees are familiar with Nostra Aetate, it's important to explain briefly for students and for new friends that are joining us what Nostra Aetate is. Nostra Aetate is a declaration issued by the Catholic Church in the 60s that calls all Catholics to engage in interreligious dialogue and cooperation with other religious traditions, to collaborate with them, to build bridges of peace and understanding. It was quite an achievement in 1965, and it's incredibly relevant today in a world of turmoil and tension. But will it be communicated to the global South? Nostra Aetate was a European document. It was issued in the 60s and it emerged in Christian Europe, and also it is well received in the United States. But most Christians today live in the South, in Africa, and in South America. So what will we do to communicate Nostra Aetate to the world so that its interreligious peace-building call is received by people all over the world? Today's program focuses on this challenge, and in particular, on the work of Sister Celia Deutsch, scholar at Barnard College, and the 16th recipient of the Center for Catholic Jewish Studies Eternal Light Award. Sister Celia and several panelists will discuss their efforts to extend the Sisters of Zion's interfaith work in Africa and the significance of Nostra Aetate's call to interreligious dialogue in a global context. The program will then conclude with Rabbi James Rudin, our co-founder, and also our very special guest, Dr. Jeffrey Senese, the 10th president of St. Leo University, awarding Celia Deutsch with the Eternal Light Award. Joining Sister Celia today are panelists who have worked collaboratively with her since her several journeys to Zimbabwe. After Celia's presentation, the panelists will discuss their efforts to extend their work along with her in many different settings in Africa. Following the panel, there will be a brief time of question and answer. And so I'd like to encourage you, if you have a question or a comment that occurs to you while Sister Celia is presenting her talk, or while our panelists are responding to her, please jot that down, and you can enter it in the Q&A field below. And now allow me to introduce you to our special scholar and guest speaker, Celia Deutsch. Sister Celia Deutsch is a sister of Our Lady of Zion, a small international Roman Catholic religious congregation with a presence in 5 continents. Dr. Deutsch is also a research scholar in the religion department at Barnard College, New York, where she taught from 1987 to 2012. Deutsch's research focuses on early Jewish and Christian social and religious intellectual history. She is engaged in interfaith work in local and international context and is a member of the Theology Committee of the International Council of Christians and Jews. Dr. Deutsch delivered the 26th Monsignor John M. Oestreicher Memorial Lecture sponsored by the Institute of Judeo-Christian Studies at Seton Hall University in October 2019. Today, Sister Celia and the Sisters of Sion will receive the Eternal Light Award, a decision made by the Center for Catholic Jewish Studies All-Scholarly Board. She has been working with Holy Trinity College in Harare, the capital city of Zimbabwe, for the last several years. She is an author and a scholar. Sister Celia, it is a pleasure to have you with us today. As our featured speaker, can you share with us about who the Sisters of Zion are? Many of our guests have heard of Nostra Aetate, but they may not be as clear on the sisters' story, their contribution to Nostra Aetate possible, and they may not be familiar also with the current mission of the sisters to extend the interreligious work throughout the world.
Thank you very much, Professor Tapie. Several months ago, I received an email from Professor Tapie telling me, to my astonishment, that I had been named the 2020 recipient of the Eternal Light Award. Discussing possible topics for today's gathering, he said that the board had expressed interest in hearing the story of the Sisters of Our Lady of Sion and the congregation's involvement in the writing of Nostra Aetate. I am proud and happy to share that story with you. But first, I would like to acknowledge the fact that we in the world of dialogue, all over the world actually, have just received the news of the death of Chief Rabbi Sir Jonathan Sachs, a great scholar and thinker and leader of interreligious and intergroup dialogue all over the world. So we acknowledge his loss, especially among the Jewish community of the United Kingdom, where he served for so many years, but it's a loss for all of us. I would like to acknowledge also the fact that we are gathered today just before the anniversary of Kristallnacht, the night of November 9th, 10th in 1938, 82 years ago. We are gathered in the wake of an election in a country divided, a world divided, torn by the ravages of COVID, racism, economic inequality, and climate degradation. And yet we gather in the hope that we can learn to see one another again, listen, live, work together in respect and solidarity in the midst of our many differences. Perhaps in the US context, this is indeed a good moment to reflect on Nostra Aetate through the lens of one community's ongoing history. I'll proceed with a series of verbal snapshots, introducing some of the sisters involved in the Nostra Aetate and in the story behind the work of the council years of 1962 to 1965. I will share the last part of this program the next part of the program with several friends and colleagues. Rabbi David Sandmel is, of course, well known to many of you, but you will also meet new friends and partners. Father Sylvester Kansimbi, the former rector of Holy Trinity College, now living and ministering in a parish in Malawi, and Dr. Julius Togarepi, the director of religious studies at Catholic University of Zimbabwe. They are among the many who are sharing with us Sisters of Sion the new horizons of interfaith and interreligious dialogue in the 21st century. Nostra Aetate was promulgated more than 55 years ago on October 28, 1965. We think of it as a self-contained document that sort of appeared over the course of 3 years. But it was preceded by decades of hard work, collaboration not only by sisters and fathers of Sion, but by Jews, Catholics, and Protestants in several countries, particularly in the UK and Europe, but also in the United States. It was also preceded immediately by a struggle during the council so intense that paragraph 4 on the church's relationship to the Jewish people was almost buried, but not quite. The story of the document's origin and rescue includes the labor of many people. Yes, Pope John the 23rd, Jules Isaac, and Cardinal Bea, but also the Sisters of Sion and many other people in Europe, the UK, and the USA. The first verbal snapshot, the Three Octogenarians. All three of these men were in their 80s. Pope John the 23rd, Professor Jules Isaac, and Augustin Cardinal Bea. All of us know the story of Isaac's visit to Pope John on June the 13th, 1960. His pleading with the Pope to include the concern for the Jewish people in the Council's deliberations. His pleading for the Pope to raise his voice on the matter of what he called the teaching of contempt. Pope John asked Isaac to discuss his memorandum with Bea, who had been appointed president on June the 6th of the newly founded Secretariat for Promoting Christian Unity. On September the 18th, after the Pope and Cardinal had discussed Isaac's proposals, it was decided that the matter would be put under Bea for the inclusion in the Secretariat's preparation for the Council. By early 1961, several members of the Secretariat for Promoting Christian Unity had already begun working on a text. The Council opened on October the 11th, 1962. It was anticipated that the question of the Council's relationship to Judaism and the Jewish people would be brought to the floor during that first session, October the 11th to December 8th, 1962. However, the topic of the Church's relationship to the Jewish people was removed for theological and geopolitical reasons. The question was volatile. Immediately after the close of the first session, Cardinal Bea sent a memorandum to Pope John and persuaded him to request that the matter go forward. The second session of the Council began on September 29th, 1963, and it would end on December the 4th, 1963. We have a new verbal snapshot, or rather a whole new file of snapshots. The Sisters of Sion became directly involved with the Council text in the spring of 1963, before that session came to order. Recalling the difficulties of the fall session, the congregation's leadership foresaw future problems and decided that the sisters, by virtue of their vocation, needed to become involved. The congregation's leaders instructed the sisters to work with bishops in the countries where the congregation was present, bringing the question of the Church's relationship to the Jews into focus and encouraging the bishops to act. In France, Sister Marie-Bénédicte Salmon, sometimes accompanied by Sister Magda Manipu, began a series of visits with French bishops and theologians, most of whom were already known to the Sisters of Sion. On September 23rd, at the suggestion of Cardinal Veuillot, the Archbishop of Paris, Sister Benedict met in Strasbourg with Father Yves Congar. I have a little snapshot in my brain of these two women getting on and off trains all over France over a period of months, visiting, making the rounds from one bishop to the next, one theologian to the next. As each of these men, and they were all men, would say to them, go to so-and-so, go to so-and-so. That person will help you. Finally, when Sister Benedict returned to Paris after her visit with Congar in Strasbourg, she enlisted the aid of Father Kurt Ruby, the professor of Bible and Jewish studies at the Institut Catholique in Paris, and at Ruby's suggestion, Pastor Georges Richard-Moulard, a Reformed Church journalist and theologian. Together, this team of three drafted 4 propositions. They then sent the text to the French bishops and theologians they'd visited, as well as additional bishops and several theologians serving at the council as periti, or experts. Pastor Richard-Moulard contacted several Protestant theologians observing at the council. All gave positive responses. The text Bea brought to the floor on November 8th, entitled On the Attitude to Non-Christians, especially towards the Jews, meant to form the 4th part of the schema on ecumenism. This text bears some resemblance to the text submitted by Sister Benedict, Kurt Ruby, and Richard-Moulard, though it is not clear whether it's a direct relationship between the two. As I've said before, this work was collaborative. It was based on decades of relationships, on a common experience of the Shoah and World War II and what all of this had demanded of the people involved, and the decades of encounter, conversation, and scholarly exploration. Now we are at midsummer 1964. The text was again in trouble. And the question was, would it, after all, be buried? Pope John the 23rd had died on June the 3rd, 1963, and Pope Paul VI was now Pope. There were serious theological differences between Bea and Paul VI over issues like deicide. Some thought the moment for a document on relations between Jews and Christians was inopportune. In January of 1964, Sister Marie Loris, an Englishwoman, had been elected Superior General, successor to Sister Marie Felix. Sister Loris, as did many others, feared that the document would be lost, buried once again. So on August the 4th, before the council resumed, August the 4th, 1964, Sister Loris commissioned Sister Dominique Croix, a member of the General Council, to write in her name. She addressed the sisters working in this congregation's Centers for Jewish-Christian Relations, asking them to ascertain which of the bishops would be most open to promoting approval of the text, now a section in the document on the church's relationship with non-Christian religions. She told the sister that if need be, they find a priest who would introduce them to the bishop. This was still a period when women's voices not only weren't heard, but they were disparaged and they were shunted aside. So she said, if you need to get a priest to introduce you to the bishop. She cautioned the sisters to avoid any kind of argumentation or polemic, given the volatile climate at the council. She told them that they should present to each of these bishops a brief little text, well-based in scripture, she said, not focusing even on the issue of anti-Semitism, but on the question of the Jews' responsibility for the condemnation of Jesus. This could then be a foundation of a clear statement by the council that the death of Jesus was not the responsibility of all Jews, past or present. The sisters made contacts in person as well as in writing. In Rome, Sisters Magda and Marie Dominique, now members of the General Council, became close collaborators with Father Bruno Hussard of the Secretariat for Promoting Christian Unity, as well as Father Cornelius Reich and others in drafting material for what would become paragraph 4 of Nostra Aetate. In London, Sister Louis Gabriel and Sister Theodora of the Seti Center for Jewish Christian Relations were in ongoing conversation and correspondence with Father Gregory Baum, another consultor, and Sister Maura Clune, the superior of the sisters in the UK and Ireland, was in correspondence with Cardinal Heenan while he was in Rome at the council. Of course, the Sisters of Sion were not the only group so involved. Networks in Great Britain and the United States included Jewish leaders such as Dr. Joseph Lichten, Rabbi Mark Tannenbaum, and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. All of these people played indispensable roles in the birth of the brief and sometimes bitterly contested document called In Our Time, Nostra Aetate. The document was not buried. It was promulgated on October 28th, 1965. That's not the end of the story. That's just the beginning. Immediately after the council, some of the council fathers and periti or experts met to discuss Nostra Aetate's implementation. They invited 3 of the sisters' leaders, and they asked the congregation to open a center in Rome for a center for documentation and encounter. This was CITIC, known to many of you. Situated in the heart of Rome on the Piazza Venezia, it was a place where Jews and Christians from all over the world came to study, explore new perspectives, and meet one another. At the same time, the periodical CITIC was founded. By the way, that's an acronym for the French Service International de Documentation Judéo-Chrétienne, International Service for Jewish Christian Documentation. This periodical published in both French and English articles and documentation on Jewish Christian relations all over the world. It went to every bishop in the United States. The period of the council was a milestone in the church's relationship with the Jewish people. The developments represented in Nostra Aetate, as well as in the official documents of the Sisters of Sion, however, were part of a long journey from conversion to dialogue, from distance and misrepresentation and anti-Semitism to encounter, relationship, friendship, and respect, a journey to mutuality. How did it happen that a religious community founded in 1846 with a view to praying for the conversion of the Jews become a community in which leadership and the cadre of its sisters formed part, often taking a leading role in the vast army of clergy, hierarchy, and lay people whose work is the backstory of Nostra Aetate? Part of the answer lies in the thinking of our founder, Theodore Radisson. Yes, from the earliest days, he told us to pray for the conversion of the Jews. And sisters in the early days raised and educated Jewish orphans from very poor families who were given into their care, the sisters' care by those families who asked them to raise those children as Christians. The sisters gave religious instruction to Jews seeking baptism. They also started a wide variety of initiatives to serve poor, working and middle-class families through schools and social services. The sisters' efforts reached people of all religious backgrounds and social classes, Protestants, Catholics, and Jews. And as the congregation spread beyond France to what is now Israel and Palestine, to Egypt and Tunisia, to Turkey, the sisters' efforts reached Muslims and Orthodox Christians, as well as Jews and Roman Catholics and Protestants. All were welcome, including the unaffiliated. Theodore's ardent desire for the conversion of the Jews was tempered by his profound, almost instinctive respect for the primacy of conscience. So, in a way that seems paradoxical to us, we're used to thinking in terms of either or. The children of other faith traditions were not obliged to follow religious instruction. When possible, they were taken to worship in synagogues, mosques, and appropriate churches. They were provided with religious education in their own traditions. And yes, some did become Roman Catholics, but that was only through parental consent. Theodore and Marie Alphonse died in 1884, and the sisters continued to work in the patterns that they had established. However, 1903 saw the beginning of the Association of Prayer for Israel, an organization that spread rapidly all over the world with ecclesiastical approval. There was something like 100,000 members within 10 years. This organization prayed for the conversion of the Jews, and the people prayed both as individual and in groups. The organization's official publication, Annales de Terre Sainte, the Annals of the Holy Land, however, suggests a combination of traditional substitution theology and the sparks of a new way of thinking, of a road to understanding and respect. It sort of drove home over and over again that members were to love the Jewish people because Jesus, his family, and the first followers were all Jews. Things continued to develop. Through the 1920s and 30s, particularly in France, groups of Jews and Christians, Protestants, Catholics, and Orthodox began meeting, whether in homes such as the gatherings in the home of Jacques and Raïs Maritain, or the House of the Fathers of Sion under the leadership of Father Théomir de Vaux. They explored various topics of interest, biblical texts, Jewish studies, theology. Sometimes a psalm would be read in Hebrew and in French. a Jew, and a Christian would exegete the text. Many of the Christians maintained their desire for the conversions of the Jews, and at the same time, both Jews and Christians were learning about one another, relating to one another in growing respect and affection. This development is referred to as philosemitism, philosemitism, love of the Jews. It's a term that's used in French in a very different way than it's used in American English. In 1928, Father Deveau established the periodical La Question d'Israël, the Question of Israel, which programmatically it made links between Christians and Jews, combating racism and anti-Semitism. Some of the members of these groups were involved in the theological movement that came to be known as a ressourcement, the return to the sources that would so profoundly mark the Second Vatican Council and, of course, Nostra Aetate. I have to say that these thinkers did not seem at all aware of the ambiguity in their thinking, which largely remained supersessionist. However, we should not be surprised. Major shifts in self-understanding, in cultural, religious, and intellectual development, these kinds of shifts are incremental. They are slow. They take place step by step over long periods of time. They are sometimes paradoxical and even self-contradictory. But the ressourcement, with its rediscovery of Bible for Christians, including the Jewish sources of the New Testament, patristic sources, the sources of Christian spirituality, this movement continued the opening to new ways of thinking, and people continued to meet, to talk, to get to know one another, to enjoy one another's company. Throughout the 30s, tensions were building, clouds were gathering. Hitler had been elected the president of Germany on August the 19th, 1940. Many of the same snapshots, Father Théomir Deveau, some of the sisters in the background, a host of companions on the journey, including the Maritins, the Lubac, and many, many others. Jews, Christians, including Christians of Jewish descent, intellectuals and writers, artists like Marc and Bella Chagall. The Nazis invade Paris on June the 14th, 1940, and the House of the Fathers of Sion with its library and meeting spaces was almost immediately raided. Jewish friends fled or went underground. The circles that had met over more than a decade could no longer come together. Father Deveau immediately began to organize a rescue network in Paris. Several of the sisters collaborated him and others, including many who had been involved in the philo-Semitic groups and then the ressourcement. These people came together in hidden ways in the rescue in Paris of approximately 600 children and 400 adults. They came together in other cities as well. Sisters were involved in other networks based in cities such as Grenoble, Lyon, Marseille, and other places throughout France, as well as Antwerp and Rome. For 5 years, the sisters and their colleagues hid people in the convents and in the hostels, those were the adults, hid children in the schools, or found safe places for people elsewhere. Rescue meant providing documents, forged identity papers, ration cards, birth certificates, providing channels of communication for rescue. It meant hiding money and supplies. As a young woman, I knew some of these people. 7 of them and Father Deveau have been named righteous Gentiles at Yad Vashem. How did they do it? I ask myself so often. I am basically a coward. How did my sisters and all of these countless people do what they did? Year after grinding year, enduring shortages that wartime brings, yes, but above all, the constant threat of discovery. How did they do it? Sister Josephine, who was named a righteous Gentile by the state of Israel, quoted the words of the Dominican priest, Father Raymond Leopold Bruckberger. He said, in the resistance, courage consisted in remaining in a state of daydream, which allowed us not only to do dangerous things, but also not to know very well what we were doing. A state of daydream. That is how some of the women I knew, and many, many more whom I never met, sustained months and years of danger, risk, and fear in the effort to hide Jews and others endangered by the occupation of France. In the post-war years, the sisters were encouraged to pursue theological and biblical studies, both formally and informally. This development was taking place in the ongoing ferment of the French theological renewal, the ongoing glissement that had begun before World War II. Relationships between Sister Notre Dame de Sion, Our Lady of Sion, and the Jewish communities continued to develop. That work was disrupted at a very profound level in France by the involvement of two Sisters of Sion in the abduction of Robert and Gerald Finale in 1952 and 1953. The congregation's leadership was shaken to the depths. They had known nothing of the two sisters' involvement until February of 1953. After the conclusion of the case, Mother Felix, who was the head of the congregation, and those around her took stock and realized in new ways the depth to which our own thinking as Sisters of Sion needed to undergo transformation, a journey from conversion to encounter and dialogue. It was a journey carried out against a backdrop of war, social and political upheaval, the tragedy of the Shoah, and the rebirth of the State of Israel. It was for the Sisters of Sion and other groups a journey of friendship with one another, with the Fathers of Sion, with collaborators and friends, Jews, Catholics, Protestants, and Orthodox, lay and clergy. The journey to Nostra, Aetate, and beyond is a journey of friendship. It is a journey of relationship. This is a journey that brought us to the eve of the Second Vatican Council, and that found us prepared to act when the crisis around the document Nostra Aetate developed. It is an ongoing journey, a never-ending journey. In subsequent decades, the sisters have been challenged to attend to the realities of solidarity with the poor, with those most on the margins of our society. Our vocation calls us, we know, to stand beside both Israeli and Palestinian peoples in their suffering. These are the words of our chapter documents. In a world filled with hatred, this vocation calls us to be women of dialogue in the Jewish-Christian understanding, while reading Nostra Aetate in its entirety and entering more intentionally into relationship with people of other faiths, including and especially Muslims, in the quest for justice and in care for the earth. More than 50 years have passed since the promulgation of Nostra Aetate. The sisters continue to work in conversation with Jewish partners in the hard work of dialogue. It is hard because it requires the willingness to be open to the ongoing transformation as we receive from one another. We continue to ground ourselves in the study and teaching of our sources, scripture and tradition, including Jewish tradition. We continue to learn more about our relationship to our Jewish roots, as well as to learn the otherness of our sibling tradition. Our relationship with the Jewish people calls us continually to change, to undergo our own conversion. We continue to share those roots with our Christian brothers and sisters and work with them in learning to live together in the wide open spaces of otherness. We are together in new and exciting ways. In the work for justice and the care of creation, we literally march together. The topics stressed in our study centers and collaborative projects include women's and gender roles, immigration, and other questions. The world keeps changing. One of the biggest challenges in the 50 years, as Professor Taby noted, since Nostra Aetate is demographic. When Nostra Aetate was promulgated in 1965, most of the world's Christians and Jews lived in the global north. There were many places where it was easy for Christians and Jews to meet together. Today, most of the world's Christians, most Roman Catholics, live in the global south. Most Jews still live in the north, and there are exceptions to both of these statements. But the new reality means that the overwhelming majority of the world's Christians never meet a Jew. The demographic shift and the resulting lack of possibilities for Christians to meet Jews, to encounter the Jewish other in a spirit of dialogue, friendship, and solidarity, presents a daunting challenge to those of us engaged in Jewish-Christian dialogue, including the Sisters of Sion. And so in response to this new and challenging reality, and in response to invitations on the part of church leaders in Kenya, Congo, Zimbabwe, Malta, Mexico, and Amazonas in Brazil, we have begun to think about itinerant ministries, taking our charisma, our vocation, to places we have never been and do not have an ongoing community. One of the biggest, one of the projects, one of the collaborations opened up is the one in Harare, Zimbabwe, and I am privileged to be one of the sisters engaged in that project. There are several other sisters and a lay associate also involved. I spent 7 weeks in 2017, and again last year, 2019, in August and September, teaching both times a course called Jesus, Matthew, and the Jewish World to seminarians from international religious orders from 7 southern African countries. We looked at the text in the light of the Jewish sources of the Second Temple period. I also taught in the certificate programs for lay leaders and guided students in the work on their final projects. Rabbi David Sandmel and Janet Raffel, his wife, last year joined me for 10 days at the end of my stay. In addition to team teaching the Matthew course with me, Rabbi Sandmel gave lectures on Introduction to Judaism while standing on one foot. His title, I like it, at 2 of the other universities and 1 of the parishes. Elsewhere, people wanted more. Everywhere, people wanted more. Many people, including the seminarians, think of Judaism through the lenses of age-old stereotypes. They have never met Jews. So Jews aren't really people. How can people be people if you've never seen them? Rabbi Sandmel's presence brought a new connection to them. In the Matthew class, we were able to teach together fraught passages such as the woes against the scribes and the Pharisees, and the blood curse of Matthew 27, and the tragic history of such texts. We were able to discuss matters pertaining to the Shoah in ways that related to their experiences as Africans. The purpose of our team teaching was twofold. It allowed for a greater and richer pool of learning in which Professor Sandmel and I, Rabbi Sandmel and I, could learn from one another. We prepared our classes together. Each class was preceded by several hours of working together. It was also an attempt to model dialogue through our approach to teaching together. And the feedback from students and colleagues suggests that this actually happened. Ms. Raphael's participation was an important part of the process, as you will hear. Rabbi Sandmel, Ms. Raphael, Father Kansimbi, and I also visited the leaders of the very small Ashkenazic and Sephardi communities, and we spent Shabbat with the Harare Lemba Synagogue, an indigenous group that numbers approximately 70,000 in Zimbabwe and another 40,000 or more in neighboring South Africa and Mozambique. The community gave us a warm welcome, and we enjoyed the beautiful service and Devar Torah, as well as the lunch afterwards. My experience in Zimbabwe has brought not only the gift of new friendships, and it has brought, that's probably the most precious thing of all for me. It has also brought new questions about Jewish-Christian relations. How do I share with my students the insights of collaborative learning with Jews into the nature of our sacred texts? How do I share those insights in ways that make sense to them in their context? I'm still learning a lot there. I've got a very steep learning curve here. Where are the calls to dialogue in their context? What is the gift to global interreligious understanding of indigenous Jews as well as white Jews whose experience and histories are so different from Northern and Israeli Jewish communities with whom we Northern Christians usually interact. How does encounter with communities in the South expand our understanding of ourselves? How does it call us anew to conversion to dialogue? This journey to dialogue is open-ended. It's open-ended because it is about life in all its mystery. One of the things that strikes me every time I read Nostra Aetate is how many times the word mystery occurs in that little tiny text, the mystery. And it's not just about something spooky that we can't understand and we can't figure out. It's about the depth of being. It's about life with the other and with the God who is other. It is never ending, this journey to dialogue, because it continually opens new vistas, new horizons, as does the desert, as does the ocean, and as do the wide open grasslands of Southern Africa. The challenge is never to stop, excuse me, never to be content with a resting place. It is to go forth always again to a new encounter. Nostra Aetate, we recall, grounds us in the mystery of God's own self and in the depths of human experience. Thank you.
Sister Celia, thank you for your compelling and moving presentation on the courageous contributions of the Sisters of Sion and your own work and initiative in Africa. I've been encouraged to never stop. Thank you. I now want to introduce our esteemed panelists for brief comments on the importance of Nostra Aetate for their own experience in Africa. First, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Julius Togarepi. He's theologian and coordinator of the theology faculty at the Catholic University of Zimbabwe. Dr. Togarepi, feel free to share. And then we will also turn to Father Kansimbi and then to Rabbi Sandmel after that.
Thank you, Professor Tapi, and greetings to all. I am glad to be part of this celebration where we are celebrating the efforts and the achievements of Sister Celia and the Daughters of Sion. I'm a coordinator with the Catholic University, and I'm happy that I have shared some experiences with Sister Celia together with Rabbi Sandmel. And I'm just going to share with you in brief my encounter with Sister Celia and the consequent fruits of that encounter, the initiatives of interreligious encounters that have emerged from that encounter, which I credit to be the work of Sister Celia and the Daughters of Sion there. My first encounter with Sister Celia was in 2017 at Holy Trinity as a fellow lecturer. Holy Trinity is an affiliate to the Catholic University of Zimbabwe. I was introduced to her by Father Sylvester, who was the rector of the college by then. We shared about our professional passion over engagements of the Sisters of Zion's commitment over the mission in Zimbabwe and other parts of the continent, especially in the area of promoting theological knowledge. I also learned about Sister Celia's engagement in the Jewish-Christian relations, and I was so interested in her work. My interest in interreligious project found a place in her work, and I had done some research sometime about interreligious dialogue. So when I heard about her work, I was just motivated to actually come up with what I heard so that I would get new ideas of implementing. And as a coordinator of the Faculty of Theology, I shared with her the passion for the project of peace building through religion. And she gave me quite a number of good ideas, and even from those experiences. Then the second encounter which we actually had was in 2019, when Sister Celia was on her second visit in Zimbabwe, Holy Trinity. This time, her announcement about the arrangement of the Sisters of Sion to head Rabbi Sandmel and Sister Celia do some collaborative teaching at our affiliate college was actually good news to us. So it was news which was received with great joy by our community, especially the university, the Christians around, because this was actually a time or an opportunity to meet and hear something about Judaism from one who actually practiced it. Of course, we have a local community, but it was quite different because most of the people, when they heard about the Lemba people, they just thought that they are Lemba, but the aspect of the Jewish roots was not coming out. So the initiatives for interreligious encounters with Sister Celia and Rabbi Sandmel took the form of public lectures and resource mobilization. Rabbi David Sandmel delivered an informative and insightful public lecture at the Catholic University. And I remember it vividly, how it raised emotion, how it raised interest. And in a way, it was just a great indication of how it was a great indication on the people's quest for more encounters. And these we actually tried to take more, especially by inviting Rabbi Sandmel to give more lectures. For instance, I asked him to give a lecture on Jewish perspectives on Messiah in theology course, where I was teaching Christology. And indeed, it was quite good. It enlightened me, it enlightened even my students. And Sister Celia, being an expert in scriptures, I also invited her to give the Jewish perspective on eschatology. Indeed, it was a point of enlightenment. So I would like to say we are so grateful to have encountered this great person in Sister Celia and the Sandmels, because it is from them that I have this opportunity to be sharing with you the experience which we have here. And for instance, I can actually say, Sister Celia has become a member of our faculty, whom we can actually reach out at any time. And we are so grateful to the Sisters of Sion for allowing us to share in this great resource person, and for all the efforts they've actually put behind their mission coming this side. And as a member of our faculty, as I call her now, she introduced me to Janet Sandmel, a great project planner and resource mobilizer, who has actually assisted in raising funds for a computer and internet router, which has enabled me to work at home during the COVID-19 era or lockdown. And as of now, I'm working from home at night. I have remained connected because of those efforts. And that's how far her work together with the Sandmels have gone. And even to further this, they made arrangements for Father Sylvester and I to attend an international conference, on Jewish Christian relations, which was supposed to be there in July, but unfortunately, because of the COVID, did not kick off. But otherwise, I can say this is the great work which we have, which we have had together. So that passion for relations with other religions has also inspired the vision which we actually had in as a faculty. So I can say from the encounter with Sister Celia, Rabbi David Sandmel and Janet, the drive for peace building through interreligious collaboration was strengthened and actually confirmed through their supportive ideas and resource mobilization. I can confess that on the 2nd of November, I attended, together with members of our faculty, the commemorations of the birth of Muhammad, together with the Muslims. And it's one thing which we are actually attributing to initiatives which we have seen that they have been happening somewhere through the likes of Sister Celia and the Sandmels. So for us, we have also started some efforts. Of course, we had a vision, the first vision where actually say we would want to have a conference. But the greater vision which we have is like in Southern Africa, we do not have an interreligious resource center. And we have made the first step by organizing an interface for religions. On the 10th of November, this year, we will be having our first interface of religions with 6 religions, including the local Jewish community. So this is our participation towards implementing Nostra Aetate, which we would actually say, in our tradition, we always know that great people always share ideas and great hearts will always share love. And we can actually say, inspired by concrete examples of the efforts of Sister Celia and the Sandmels, we have come this far. We would like to say thank you to the Sisters of Zion. Congratulations to Sister Celia. You are a real ambassador of interreligious relations and tolerance. God bless you, and God bless the daughters of Zion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Togarepi, for your words. We'll now turn to Father Sylvester, a Spiritan priest and faculty member of the Holy Trinity College faculty in Harare, Zimbabwe. He is also an author and a scholar. Father Sylvester, you'll have to unmute your mic. There should be an unmute button.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, that's working now. I believe you'll have to unmute your mic, Father Sylvester.
Can you hear me?
There you go. Now we can hear you.
Good, thank you. Greetings to you all, and it's nice to be part of this forum and discussion. I came to know Sister Celia in 2017 when she came to Harare, Zimbabwe. And I happened to fetch her at the airport. And when she came out of the plane and meeting her, so jovial was Sister Celia. And I came to know her in 2017, and she came again in 2019. However, allow me to tell you that I came to know the Sisters of Our Lady of Zion, to the congregation to which Sister Celia belongs to, in 2013. In 2013, we had the visit of two sisters, Sister Lucy and Sister Margaret. They came to Zimbabwe. They came visiting us at Aetate College. And I did also welcome them, looking forward to hearing what they came to Zimbabwe for. I knew a little bit is to do with the Jewish, Catholic, or Christian dialogue and the relationship. And so many questions were in my head. And I fetched them at the airport. We went to our community, and we had organized at school level an open talk, open lecture, and they gladly prepared it very well. And they shared with us that their intention, their charism as a congregation is to do with the Jewish-Christian relationship. I must tell you, to say that topic, after introducing it to us as a college, Aetate College, an affiliate college of the Catholic University of Zimbabwe, we were shocked, talking about the Jews in a relationship with the Catholics. It became an emotional that's about the Christian-Jewish relationship. I am a priest, 20 years now, and I was baptized when I was already advanced in years, and I belong to my own traditional religion. And since I became a Catholic, all along, we pray for the Jews, as Sister Celia said, for the conversion of the Jews. And here comes Sister Celia, Sister Lucy, Sister Margaret, telling us to enter into relationship with the Jews. But I've been praying for them. We need to pray for their conversion. Why enter into relationship? Sister Lucy and Margaret accepted our anger. And that anger was not only with the other people, but including myself. Because every Good Friday, we're praying for them, and still now we're praying for them. And in our local languages, when we pray for them, it is as if we are praying for sinners. So that was it, 2013. And Sisters Lucy and Margaret told us, we came for this. We appreciate that you have reacted in this way, but we're beginning a journey of traveling together, themselves, Sisters of Our Lady of Zion, and also Aetate College, such that every year from 2013 to the present time, each year, almost every semester, we do receive members of the Sisters of Our Lady of Zion, plus their associates. And now, the 15 were so negative, not only with the Jews, but even with the sisters themselves. What is their mission? What is their intention? But now, I must gladly say, they've moved us from negativity to positivity. The climax of this dialogue, Christian Jewish dialogue, it was when Sister Celia talked about that the following year, 2 years later, after 2017, she will come with a rabbi. Sister Celia and the rest were Christians. They were sisters, religious like myself. I'd never met any Jew. And for me, I was still imagining, how do they look? And so that's why I'm saying it was a climax in 2019 when Sister Celia came with Rabbi Sandmel with his wife. So jovial was David Sandmel. So jovial was his wife. He said, but they're not Jews. You told us to bring Jews. He said, these are the ones. He's a rabbi and this is his wife. We ate together with Sandmel, David, and his wife. We were traveling together. We prayed together. We had the Sabbath celebration together. And for me, they're just like us, like another person. Why has the church been telling us to pray for them? And it was only now that we are appreciating their presence, we are appreciating them. We are talking of 2,000 years of Christianity. And now, till now, the prayer is still on to say, what is behind this our attitude towards against them? Chatting with them, so beautiful, the people. So for me, 2019 was the climax. David Sandmel and his wife was in Zimbabwe for 10 days, only 10 days. But those 10 days were like 3 years of Jesus Christ preaching the gospel. That the 10 days of David Sandmel and his wife, for me now, I'm so positive. And I say, now we don't have many Jews, there are pockets of Jews here and there. But now the understanding of the relationship between Catholic Jewish dialogue, for me, it is an eye opener for us and the church to dialogue as well with our traditional religions. Because Christianity came like here in Malawi, where I'm staying and working now, about 100 years ago. And in my family and myself, I'm the first to be baptized. So my roots are in the traditional religion, and we are taught it is evil. And in the very same way, we are praying for the Jews. Now, for me, the whole understanding of the relationship brought to us by the Sisters of Our Lady of Zion, appreciation of the other people, and at the same time, like what Sister Celia said, it is the whole mystery of God. We are one, sons and daughters of God. So for me, the whole Nostra Aetate is about brotherhood, sisterhood, friendship, and the like. And who has brought this key to understanding this? The Sisters of Our Lady of Zion. And in Sister Celia, she has the passion and she enjoys teaching. She's very active, and her combination of David Sandmel in class, it is something, an eye-opener to say, this is the way to go. So I'm grateful to the Sisters of Our Lady of Zion for unlocking the darkness that was in us, for unlocking the ignorance that was in us. And I would say there are pockets of Jews in many countries of Southern Africa, and sometimes they're secretive because we don't look at them with a positive eye. And to say, this mission started by the Sisters of Our Lady of Zion, I wish this dialogue or Nostra Aetate, dialogue between Christians, Catholics, and the Jews, it is more to do with the North, not in Southern Africa or in Africa. And now we are many now of us following Christ. And now we need to come out of this looking at other religions as if they are enemies, as if they are in the opposition parties and the like. I would like to see ourselves in a little ways, few ways, your new president in America has said, union and being together and the like. So in short, I would like to say thank you for this dialogue. Thank you for this forum that we are able to discuss this. I'm a product of traditional religion, and this aspect for me, it is a new way of talking to people here in Malawi. And I'm meeting several people, and I'm learning more about even Dr. Togarepi talked about Muslims. We have plenty here in Malawi. People belong to African traditional religions, so many, but we are still looking at them as if we are not going towards our common destiny to God. So this, if it can be promoted to go beyond more than what has happened in the past 7 to 8 years, to say, can something be done? You are rescuing and helping people who are still very negative. I am a priest, and I find so many priests here in Malawi, even they are shocked to hear about the Jewish-Christian dialogue. I wish I can have a forum to doing this more often with them, with the support of this kind of forum. So I thank you so much, and to Sister Celia, we are very proud of her because of the passion, and to David Sandmel and also his wife. It was a blessing for them to come to Zimbabwe. It was a blessing for them. Me, I was eating with David, having breakfast with him. And this is a person we're praying for. I was now questioning, why have we been praying for them? Why? Does he need our prayers? Or we need his prayers? So we thank you, Professor Matthew. Thank you for now.
Thank you, Father Sylvester, very much for your comments. We'll finally now turn to our last panelist, Rabbi Dr. David Fox Sandmel, Director of Interreligious Engagement at the Anti-Defamation League since 2014.
Well, thank you. Am I being seen and heard reasonably well here?
Yes, you are seen and heard, David.
All right. Well, thanks to
Yes.
God for that.
Yes, good to see you.
All right. Well, let me begin. And this is my wife, Janet Raffel. Let me begin, first of all, by congratulating.
Oh, beautiful, Janet.
Hi.
So let me begin, first of all, by congratulating and thanking Sister Celia. Had it not been for her willingness to kind of run with a crazy idea, this might not have happened. I also want to thank the Sisters of Zion for their willingness to back Sister Celia on this crazy idea. And finally, to thank Father Sylvester and everyone at the Holy Trinity College in Harare for really extending themselves and their hospitality to both of us in such an amazing fashion. Things are not necessarily easy all the time in Zimbabwe, but we were treated impeccably. It was really a wonderful experience. If you'll forgive me a brief anecdote, Sister Celia and I were having sushi in Midtown Manhattan, and she was telling me about going to Harare to teach, and I said, oh, just off the cuff, gee, wouldn't it be fun if the two of us could do that together? Well, you should be careful what you say to Sister Celia, because we actually pulled it off and made it happen. And it was the confluence of Sister Celia and the Sisters of Zion and their commitment to this work. Father Sylvester and the Holy Trinity College, ADL giving me a little bit of space to go do this. And it really was a unique experience, I think, for both of us. Just a couple of things that I want to pick up on from things that Celia mentioned. One was the fact that a good number of the people, maybe most of the people that we met, certainly most of the students, had never met a Jewish person before, let alone two of them. I think for me, though, one of the things that was most important about this was the necessity to step back and think about context. You know, the vast majority of my experience has been either in the United States or in Europe with Westerners who are, at least to some extent, familiar with the material and the history and so forth. But this was an experience, this was a context in which that was not a given. In fact, most of the people did not have that context. And so it was really important for me to step back and think about, how do I present to this group? What's different in presenting to this group that might, from, for example, teaching a group of North American Catholic school teachers about Jewish relations, which I've done. So it was, that was very important for me to have to stop and think and shift in my own thinking there. Celia also mentioned that we both learned from one another, and I certainly learned from Celia. I hope she learned something from me in the process. But yes, that was a wonderful experience, team teaching. And then in terms of the modeling of the dialogue, I think that that's a very sort of subtle thing. It's not like we got up there and said, hi, we're going to model the dialogue for you. It was more that we just did our thing, and we would we were teaching, we were reading the text with the students. Celia was the lead teacher, but I would chime in every now and then. And I think it was I think that in and of itself was something special for the students, or different for the students. But I also think especially the idea of a sister and a rabbi teaching New Testament texts together, tackling some really difficult texts, but doing it from this starting place of both commitment to the dialogue, but also a real friendship. And I would also say that it was a very strong friendship, but there's nothing like spending 10 days together, working on some of the things that we worked on, all of us, to really move that friendship to a different level. One of the things, I think one of the things, and maybe Father Sylvester, maybe you can share your reaction to this as well. One of the things that we did in the class is we read the verse about the Pharisees making their fringes long and their straps wide and so forth, which, if you're just reading it on the page and you don't have context, doesn't mean a whole lot. So we read those verses, and I took out my tefillin and my talit, and I put them on for the class and showed them what they were, and talked about how they would have been part of the religious life of Jesus and his followers in the first century, and how they continue to be meaningful for Jews today. And then I took them off and passed them around the room for the students to see. Now, I've done this a lot in the United States, and never in the United States have I seen what I saw in Africa, was that most of the students actually tried on the talit. They wanted to not only see it and touch it, but they really wanted to experience the feeling of having that on their shoulders. Now, again, I don't know. Actually, we did ask Father Sylvester, like him, to talk about. We asked whether this was something that reflected the Zimbabwean or the Southern African context. And I think that Father Sylvester, you thought that it did. And then here's the other thing, because Father Sylvester couldn't come to that class, I did a special one-on-one for him with the talit and tefillin. And I think that makes real, in a sense, things that one reads about or one sees in pictures, as did the opportunity we had to visit both the what I would refer to as the white Jewish synagogues, the Ashkenazi Sephardi community, and the Lemba, the African community, where especially with the Lemba, where we got to celebrate Shabbat with them and participate in their worship. That kind of dialogue of experience, I believe, is what Dialogue and Proclamation calls it. It was also a very significant part of what we did there. So let me pause here and throw it back to you, Matt. I don't know if you want to see if Father Sylvester wants to respond, or how you want to take it from here. But it was an amazing experience, and Sister Celia and the Sisters of Sion deserve all of the kudos that this afternoon is about.
Thank you, David, very much. Sure, Father Sylvester, would you like to respond to David?
Yes, I'd like to respond, and thank you so much for that, Dr. Sandmel. I entered into his, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Father. Father Sylvester, you're muted. Could you unmute your mic?
Hello?
Hi, now we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. I entered 3 or 4 times in the classes of Dr. David Sandmel, and I remember very well about the talit, what he was putting on, and almost each and every student wanted to put it. First, I heard from the students that David is allowing the students to putting on the talit. And I asked them why. He said, we want also to become a Jew for that minute of putting it on. And then the following class I entered, and the people were so happy. And it is not just what they were putting on, but the closeness. In Africa, in many places, if somebody gives you what a person wears, it means you share the same blood. Now, in David giving us what he put on, and that means we are one. He's no longer a Jew, and I'm no longer a Catholic, but we are one and we are brothers. And when I went to his apartment now later on, I asked him to do it, and he did it. And I have some photos, and I'm always proud about it, that it helps us, in our understanding, to enter into you. And traditionally, in a traditional understanding of our religion, then we are no longer strangers to each other. We are friends by sharing what he was using, that it was on me, and here it is now like a brother. So my little experience, I can say, is it created an atmosphere of brotherhood, the bond of brotherhood. Thank you.
Wonderful. Father Sylvester, thank you very much for sharing that response. And the theme of becoming friends rather than strangers is certainly significant and symbolizes well Nostra Aetate. I now want to thank all our panelists. If we had our audience to clap, I would definitely say give them a round of applause. We have a brief moment for a question here, and I just wanted to share the question briefly. The question is, congratulations on a most exciting set of initiatives, exclamation point. And this is from our friend Phil Cunningham. Phil asks, could Julius, Sylvester, Celia, and David share the most surprising thing they learned from their interreligious encounters with each other? What is something that surprised you in your encounter? And don't forget, you'll have to unmute your microphone before you speak.
I'll go first. It's not so much a specifically religious piece. I mean, as David, if you might have gathered from David's remarks, David and I have known one another, and like I've known Jim too, but David and I have known one another forever. We don't even know where we met. So, you know, and the studying together, we'd never done that together yet, but so it's not that there were surprises, I was learning and so forth, but I wasn't surprised to learn from David. The thing I was most surprised at, starting in 2017, was how much at home I felt in Harare. And that was because of the people at Holy Trinity. I mean, you don't feel at home where you're not made to feel at home, right? And Father Sylvester and other folks there, Father Julius, people made me feel like I was part of them. And I expected people to be polite and friendly. You know, we're polite and friendly to one another, but I didn't expect to be made part of the family. And so that for me was a big surprise. And we're still connected to one another. And in between times, and I was back and last fall, and I'll go back again, or at least I'll, you know, somehow we'll teach again. And in between time, their little texts and their Facebook messages. And we're part of our family. I feel like I'm family. And then when Dr. Togarepi said, Celia is part of our faculty, I thought, oh my God, that is such a gift. That is such a gift. And it's totally unexpected because, you know, it's just a gift. Yes, I expected politeness and friendship, you know, friendly and welcoming, but not to be made part of the family. And that was just amazing. And it is amazing to me. And then the other piece of this gift, and I don't know how to articulate the things yet, but I just feel for all of us involved, or for those of us from the global north who are engaged in this dialogue, there are questions for us, things to explore in this broadening of all of it. And I don't even know, I don't have words yet to put on it, but it makes everything even richer. And yes, we will need to do the, you know, continue to explore our history, to explore our sources, but there's something new opening up. And that is also a gift. It's a little scary. It's scary, you know, because it means to change things. Oh.
Thank you, Celia. David, please go ahead.
Well, sure. I think that you know, I have always thought on an intellectual level that Jewish-Christian dialogue, both in terms of the history of what has been accomplished over the past several generations, and also just sort of the methodology, was something that had potential to has the potential to be a model for others. We talked about modeling Jewish-Christian dialogue, but I think interfaith dialogue as well. And I think, you know, it's one thing to sort of have that idea, gee, I think this is a great model, and maybe it's another thing actually to go somewhere and to talk to people and watch them get excited about the idea. So the things that Dr. Togarepi is working on, which of course he was working on before we got there. I don't want to take full credit, you know, that we suddenly planted this idea, but that the kind of work that we do and the kind of experience that Janet brought, that we were able to combine that and to share that, that was really something that I think surprised me. And the other thing briefly is the way that some of the folks in Harare who we met talked about the way that Jewish-Christian dialogue and the history of Jewish-Christian relations has informed their own understanding of themselves as you know, from their own context, where they come from in their own families, what traditions, how they navigate that, how those traditions were and are regarded by the church, and what some of the struggles have been there. And again, the fact that what we were doing and what we were talking about provided a perspective, perhaps some vocabulary for talking about those things. That was not something I expected.
Fascinating. Thank you, David, very much.
Hi, Professor Tapi.
Yes, Dr. Togarepi, please.
Yeah, I can actually say my greatest surprise was actually knowing that Jewishness goes beyond a religion. It's actually a people. Because that was the basic understanding which I had. And what also surprised me is the excitement which I saw when people received the lecture of Rabbi Sandmel. It was actually great. And the appreciation and even the quest for more was something which was beyond lecture halls, but which needs something at grassroots. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And Father Sylvester.
Oops.
You will have to unmute your microphone, Father Sylvester.
Hello?
There you go. Now we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
hear you.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Before he came, David Sandmel, it was about Dr. Rabbi Sandmel. And when he came, I was afraid how to talk to him. And there was a time following Sister Celia who just said, David. And myself also had a certain moment I said, David. I nearly had to go for confession to a priest that I called a rabbi just David. And Sister Celia said, come on, this is David. And for me, the appreciation of he is a rabbi and I'm just calling him David. For me, I thought myself, this is a sin. It is a sin. I have to confess. I have to go to a priest. And Sister Celia said, come on, Sylvester, that's okay. So it is just something that when we hear of a rabbi in the Bible, the picture we have with is Moses, is Noah, and the like. But here comes a person who is so simple, and the language was so simple as well. So that's something I like. If you're a bishop, we always say bishop is so and so. But here comes a rabbi. He was so free in being addressed like doctor and just David and the like. Something that it was a surprise, and at the same time to appreciate that what matters in him, it is him and me. We are just sons and daughters of God. Thank you.
Thank you,
Professor.
Father. Thank you, Father
Matthew.
Sylvester, for sharing. We now want to move to the last section of the program where we focus on the Eternal Light Award. And specifically, I want to introduce you to those of you who may not know to Rabbi Jim Rudin, co-founder of the Center for Catholic Jewish Studies and senior interreligious advisor for the American Jewish Committee, and also Dr. Jeffrey Senese, the 10th president of St. Leo University. I will turn it over now to them to recognize the work of Sisters of Sion and Sister Celia.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to thank the panelists. I learned a lot. I was inspired. My wife, Marcia, and I both enjoyed all of you. And there's a little personal connection. Sister Celia talked about family. Well, Janet Raffle, excuse me, is my cousin who happens to be married to Rabbi Sandmel. So it either completes the circle or makes a square. I don't know. But it's very good to see my colleague, my rabbinical colleague, Rabbi David Sandmel, and of course, the folks at St. Leo. Because we have Zoom people from around all of the United States and other countries, unlike our past in-person dinners where we used to give the award in person, I just want to say a paragraph about the St. Leo University Center for Catholic Jewish Relations, which was founded in 1998, and I am very honored to have been one of its co-founders. Thanks to the extraordinary center director, who's I'm looking at right now, Dr. Matthew Aetate, and really, we all deeply appreciate, I do, especially the president of St. Leo University, Jeffrey Senese. I'm also looking at, although these two men look a little smaller than I remember them in person, but that's Zoom, I guess. And because of them, the president and the director of the Center for Catholic Jewish Studies at St. Leo is really thriving. And it's one of the highlights of my career. And giving the Eternal Light Award is also one of the highlights of the center's year. Because I used to be a tour guide director when I was in college in Washington, let me just say another paragraph about Florida. The center is the only interreligious center of its type south of Baltimore, Maryland.
Wow.
And you should all know, and this comes for the Floridians here, should all know that Florida is much, much more than just a so-called battleground state in a presidential election. For the folks around the world, they should know, and around the United States, that it is the third most populous state in the United States, surpassed only in population by California and Texas. And Catholics and Jews, who were once very limited in number in Florida, we are growing every day, it seems every day, with more Catholics, more Jews coming to Florida to live here. It's a very big state, increasing numbers of both communities, and the center's best days, best years lie just ahead. So it's a great honor to see that 22 years later, we are thriving. And now, in closing, some loving words about our 2020 Eternal Light Award recipient, the one and only, the great Catholic Sister of Zion, Dr. Professor Celia Deutsch. Many of you don't know this, but she was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, back in the 20th century. And because of that, Celia is firmly rooted and at ease in a multi-religious, multi-racial, multi-ethnic society. And I suspect she still loves the old Brooklyn baseball Dodgers, who moved long ago to Los Angeles. So that's Brooklyn. But our honoree this year also has a Canadian maple leaf embedded in her academic DNA, because her master's degree and her PhD degree were earned at the University of Toronto. Now, in addition to her doctorate, you know and you heard that she's a leading member of the great and one of the favorite Christian groups that Marcia and I really admire, the Sisters of Zion. Instead of just the Eternal Light Award, I hope someday the Nobel Prize, seriously, goes to the Sisters of Zion for all their work, building human bridges of mutual respect, understanding and knowledge between Roman Catholics and the Jewish people. Finally, you should know that our honoree taught at Fordham University, a Catholic university in New York City, but she spent 17 years at Barnard College, some would say a secular college, part of Columbia University, New York City. And I can attest in my own interreligious work, the American Jewish Committee. I met some of her students, and she's had a tremendous impact on two generations, Christians and Jews. Her biography, her CV goes 14 pages. Not going to read them all, but includes numerous books, articles, and reviews, all of the highest academic order. I worked with Sister Celia on a recent book on Catholic-Jewish relations, and Dr. Eugene Fisher and I were privileged to labor under Sister Celia because she was the editor-in-chief. I noticed she was kind to lazy authors who failed to meet deadlines. She was brilliant in her academic excellence. And without Celia's astonishing talent, there would have been no book. Now, you've seen and heard all this afternoon her efforts in Zimbabwe as a member of the Sisters of Zion. Celia said in an earlier meeting, she considers her work there one of the proudest achievements of her remarkable career. And we all know that the highest praise a person can receive is respect and love from one's peers and colleagues. That's the true test of a person's career, of a person's impact, of a person's effect on her colleagues. That's the true test. So I just want to say that when the word went out that the St. Leo University Center for Catholic Jewish Studies announced to the world that in 2020, the great Sister Celia Deutsch was this year's recipient. Matt Tape's computer and mine were quickly flooded with praise, admiration, and love. That extraordinary vote of love and affection and esteem came with remarkable speed. And for the Americans, people in the United States, I can say we did not have to wait 4 days to get all the votes of the support for our choice. So it is my great honor, a true honor, to present the 2020 St. Leo University Center for Catholic Jewish Studies, Eternal Light, to the one and the only, my editor, under whom I was privileged to work, the amazing Sister Celia Deutsch. Mazel tov and congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know. I don't know if you can see this. Matt, can I like this? This is the beautiful award that was sent to me in the mail.
Wow,
And
wow.
Yes, it's so beautiful.
Congrats.
And I want to thank you, and thank you, Jim, for your very kind words.
All true.
I'll pay you later. But I want to, I'm really honored and I'm really humbled, equally humbled, maybe more humbled even, to receive this year's Eternal Light Award from the Center for Catholic Jewish Studies at St. Leo University. Dr. Tape asked me to reflect with you on this moment in my journey and about the significance of the award for the Sisters of Sion. As lots of you know, everybody in our Zoom screen knows, and maybe a lot of people in the participants box, I'm a scholar of early Judaism and early Christianity. Currently, I'm focused on writing a commentary on the Gospel of Matthew in the light of Jewish sources and from a feminist perspective. In a very real way, I live in the world of books in the past. However, I also live in the present, a reality in which I and we are called to be light to one another and to our world. The Eternal Light Award reminds me that we live in a much broader reality, in the bright light of God's presence, even in the grimmest of times, such as our own. It tells me that we are called to discover in ever new ways the light of that presence in one another, in otherness, in our commonality, in our brokenness, and in our giftedness. I bring with me today this moment, many people. First among them, of course, are the Sisters of Our Lady of Sion and our whole Sion family, associates and friends, and our brothers, the religious of Sion. The award tells me that we are being challenged and nudged, beckoned into living our vocation to dialogue in new ways, many of which we are still discovering. And we are called into that newness even in this time of COVID, this time of sickness and fear and death and isolation, of conflict and unrest, and this time of deep longing, and yes, a time of hope. The call does not wait for the end of the pandemic or the resolution of the many challenges facing our country. I think of the women on whose shoulders I stand, women like Sister Gabriella Londi, the Roman, Sister Maria Massimo, another Roman, Sister Marie Noel de Bayash, the French woman. Sister Marie Edward, Berkeley, British. Sister Magda Manipu and Sister Marie Benedict, French. Women who hid Jews and were hidden, who helped to bring to birth Nostra Aetate. I think of Sister Winifred McEnany, Winnie, also known as Winnie the Pooh, an American Sister of Sion who marched in Selma with Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. These women, with their passion for God and for God's people, their spiritual, intellectual, and physical courage inspire me. I feel their presence. And then, of course, there are my sisters and Sion family who are with me today. The award reminds me that the light shines brightly in our midst as we search for new ways to be the family of Our Lady of Sion in the 21st century. This whole Sion family, this place of the eternal light, challenges me, pushes and pulls me forward when I would sometimes rather rest in my comfort zone. They give me strength when the way seems just too hard. This moment in my journey is one of remembering and of gratitude. And so I remember the countless colleagues, students, friends, companions on the journey through a world of deeper, more inclusive understanding and justice for all. Those many people are spread all over the globe, from the United Kingdom and Europe to Israel and Zimbabwe and Malawi, to the United States and Canada, Brazil and Central America. They are companions in dialogue and scholarship, in the silence of religious presence, and in the shared work for a more just and inclusive society. This moment in my journey is also a moment of profound gratitude to my parish, Our Lady of Refuge in Brooklyn, and to the Interfaith Coalition of Brooklyn, of which we are a founding member. They enrich my life with their faith, dedication, friendship, and courage. Many of the Muslim community and the Catholic community in this coalition are undocumented immigrants. I suspect they don't even know how deeply they inspire me with their determination, courage, and commitment to building a new way to be together. I'm grateful to them. I am grateful to all of you. Thank you for being my sisters and brothers. This moment in my journey, well, it leads me to wonder what's next. That's a little daunting. Thank you so much to the center, and especially to Dr. Matthew Tape for his patience and insight, and for sharing the journey with me. Thank you, Dr. Senese, for your kind words and for honoring me with your presence. Blessings to all of you and to all whom you hold dear, both near and far away. Thank you so much.
So congratulations so much, Sister Celia. We are truly honored to recognize you this year. And I was going to say, you know, awards call you to work forward, but you took that statement and ran with it before I even said it. So I know we all have confidence that you and the Sisters of Sion are going to move forward in your great work globally. I appreciate very much Rabbi Rudin for continuing to support the center and support Dr. Tape. Your words were, as usual, tremendously inspiring, and we really appreciate you extending the award to Sister Celia. Thank you so much, Father Sylvester and Dr. Togarepi, for being up so late at night and joining us from your homes and your words. Thank you so much. And if there's any relationship that can be built with Catholic University of Zimbabwe, certainly contact my office and we can talk. I would be remiss if I did not recognize also Rabbi, excuse me, Rabbi Sandmel for his kind words to contribute to this intellectual adventure on a Sunday afternoon. What a better way to spend a Sunday afternoon than talking about issues that we all care about so much and experiences that you all have had together. I appreciate that, Rabbi, as well. And finally, I'd like to thank Dr. Tape for his steadfast and really exceptional leadership of the CCJS. And he has been responsible over the last several years of really building an exceptional center that's having impact across the globe. A little bit about St. Leo before I get out of your way and allow Dr. Tape to close. It's really an honor, my honor, to serve St. Leo University. I'm not the president, I serve St. Leo University, and that's how we look at leadership at the university. We are the 4th largest Catholic university in the United States, 6th largest master's institution. We are the largest Benedictine university in the world, so not just in the United States. Have tremendous impact on, obviously, on our communities all throughout the United States. We serve military students all around the globe, online students all over the globe, and we educate hundreds of students, if not more, in interfaith leadership. It is one of the hallmarks of our approach. We strive to build a society where peace and justice are really valued. It's a core Catholic tradition and a core at the university, part of our DNA. We're always looking for ways to build bridges, and whether it's across religions or across locations or interest areas, we try to be there. We offer over 100 degrees in everything from education, social sciences, engineering now. We're going to be offering nursing in the fall, business, all the way from associate degrees through doctorate degrees. Right now, we're in 16 locations. Our main campus is just outside of Tampa, Florida. And I would echo what Rabbi Rudin said about Florida. Florida's really, I'm not a Floridian. It's a very interesting place that has every stripe of every kind of person you can imagine. So it makes it quite interesting. Last year I talked about the Dalai Lama. I had the opportunity to have dinner with him some years ago, and I want to leave you with something he said during that dinner. He said, "My religion is very simple. My religion is kindness." And I'll add to that, which I was very impressed with, Sister. You said never stop. And that's what St. Leo should have in its tagline, never stop. That's what we all should have in our tagline, never stop. The other thing that we do at St. Leo, because we're Benedictine, is one of the things that's important, and I hope you notice that I did this as a president. It's not always easy to do this, is to listen, is to really listen with your ears and your mind and your heart, not just get ready to speak, but to listen. And it's something that we value, and I appreciate the opportunity to listen and hear about your work. And again, congratulations. I know you're representing us well and will represent the Eternal Light Award in the future quite well. Thank you all for being here, and I appreciate everything you all are doing in your communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Senese. Congratulations to you again, Sister Celia, and to the Sisters of Sion, many of whom I know are tuned in right now and who perhaps will also watch this video or this program in its recorded version later. Special thanks to Father Sylvester and Dr. Togarepi for staying up late today and joining us all the way from Zimbabwe. Thanks to Dr. Senese and your words. To St. Leo, without St. Leo's support, the day-to-day operations of the CCJS would come to a halt. And so it's only because of St. Leo's undying support for Catholic-Jewish relations that we are here today. Thanks to our friends and supporters and donors who are watching right now. Without you, special programs like this would not be possible that you have endowed.
Yes.
I also want to let you know that we'll have a January newsletter keep coming along. Keep an eye out for that. This will announce details of a scholarly symposium, the first scholarly symposium that we will hold. It will gather 10 to 12 scholars from across the country and even into the UK. And we will meet in the very beginning of May to have a special 2-day conference presenting papers, which will ultimately become a edited volume on Catholic-Jewish relations and theological challenges of dialogue. So that's a snapshot for the future. But thank you for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks again to all our panelists, and it's a pleasure to see you all, and I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Thanks. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank
Make
you
up.
so much.
Thank you
Make up
so
well.
much.
God bless.
God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Bye.